I actually stopped thinking about it hypothetical. Or like, do I have any regrets? That might be a useful question, especially considering I went to Napa like blew up my head after music. Maybe do I regret that? That's probably the bigger question, like the singular question. I know I have one. I just used the phone. Can you hear me? Words. iPhone. It also probably helps that my air conditioners aren't running right now. It's kind of a cooler day. It's all raining outside. All right. I mean, let's let's call it a pre-interview. I don't want to think of it as practice. I don't need a rehearsal because I don't want to argue this in a rehearsal because I don't need a rehearsal. I would rather be the kind of person who wakes up out of either side of the bed and has a comprehensive interview in any situation. I am online. If I did not give consent to being online, I shouldn't be here. Sure, that's true. It can be exploited. Yeah, I mean, if I'm, yeah, you're gonna make memes out of me. Please do that. That's how the internet works. I get it. Yeah, you do your thing. Do your worst. I would think so. I think I am, even though I was thinking about it. One time a girl that I knew through a friend tried to get some weed from me for 20 bucks worth, and I ripped her off. I was like, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I've always been, but I would say that I am now. In my experience, yes, but that's mostly because nobody will stand up when I start speaking. To my knowledge, yes, but I mean, I am biased as hell there. But from my observations, people view me as consistent. Quite the stamina. Very long-winded. More than I am a part of right now, and that is 7. So at least I'm in dozens of servers. Anything labeled philosophy probably has me banned. Yeah, definitely over 20, over 30, I'm sure. Actually, maybe over 50 even. Yeah, I would guess at least 50. At least 50. Because of pretty much the one view that I'm unwilling to cuddle. I'm unwilling to assume everyone's relevance just by virtue of their existence. It's not much my delivery, especially on VC, because I'm quite polite in these terms. But when you get me a voice and you give me some bullshit, where I know you have the potential to edit your speech, but you don't, then I take that personally and I respond in kind. But like in situations like this, it's like real moment, and I understand that my words have emotional impact, and I just acknowledge that that has some reactions in it. I react differently in person than in text. I would probably say Atheist Graveyard by topic design because I log on to make atheists feel bad about being atheist. I will say it's an endorsement. Yeah. You got paid to say that? I didn't get paid to say that, but no. That's just where I spend most of my time. That's where I always expect to go. I can always come home and pop my feet up and enjoy my time, light a pipe and hit up the atheist graveyard and tell some dumb fuck what's what. But I mean, I can do that anywhere, really. However, only an atheist graveyard is the implied consent for it to happen. The redhead's different than normal people. Hmm. They seem to think they are. In my opinion, not so much. But I've also never really been looking freckles, generally. Personality, other than thinking that being a redhead or a ginger sets them in a different moral class, I would say no. Maybe angrier. I wouldn't say smarter. But that kind of goes into the joke that Irish people will ignore anything that they can't drink or punch. And I associate redheads and Irish, also Scottish. Hmm. Makes sense. I seem to like the Scottish temperament. I seem to have a no nonsense attitude as well, even though I can't understand a damn thing they say. But that's also why I prefer text over chat. Sure, yeah, it wasn't an accident. It was an incident. It was scary and angering at first, but in the long run, it was just a bump in the road. But it was pretty much the biggest bump imaginable, I suppose. And the fact that it was just something that I ultimately ended up taking in stride and turning to my benefit was just a test that I ended up winning. But I was robbed and shot in the left arm and in the head when I was 17 for fighting back unarmed. And then when I was on the gurney, I did my very best to remove the bullet myself, to save myself a surgery. And I've had worse kind of mentality. Or I can take, is that all you got? I can take more, watch this. So I did my best to remove the bullet, couldn't reach it. And then when I was angry about that, curled my finger, touched the inside of my skull. When I touched that and felt the texture of the inside of my skull, I was like, okay, well, there's the damn limit. Can't go any deeper than that. So now you've been as far as you can either way. So now you got nothing left but that. Yeah, I was conscious until they gave me morphine in the ambulance. At which point I had an out of body experience, floated through the side of the ambulance, up somebody's driveway, through their door, into their foyer, and basically got magnetically stuck on their ceiling so that all I could do was play with their chandelier. Yeah, the black robbers ran right after they shot me. Right. Twice. First in the arm, then in the head. In the sense of non-physically, very much so, because the awareness of having gone from limit to limit in my own life and experience, carrying that knowledge with me day to day, that's kind of all empowering, I thought. Even if only in text chat or voice chat on the internet. But I mean, things scale. So. More, yes, in the way that it was kind of like Dr. Manhattan touching the forehead, I mean, gift and the eye opening, third eye kind of thing. Um, at least as much as my first concussion, which I know I've had multiple, at least one when I had that I got from falling out of a treehouse, landing on my face, started that. So, I mean, I might just say it's kind of like a mechanical tap as described when you hit a piece of old technology to get it working right. And I might suggest that also translates to biology or neurology at least. The people I look up to are the people who have lived and died for truth and justice. Socrates, for one, in the sense that he held the view that it's wrong to everyone everywhere to believe a thing about, no, I'm sorry. The way that he died, and he held the view, he died from basically, no, he basically said, I'm not going to lie to you to make you feel better. I'd rather you just go ahead and kill me. I'd rather die first. And Charlie Kirk was very similar in the sense that he was aware that death was an option, being the death threats were made. And as I am aware, death threats are, death is an option too. But I mean, I'm also aware even more than that, that none of us can make it out alive. So it's a matter of how it's used for that. And I choose to live honestly. And if that offends anybody else, then that's a you problem and not me. Aside from, I mean, it's pretty much going to be pretty much anybody by the same metric. Just pretty much anybody who showed the moral temerity and courage to put the truth in the hole before themselves. So pretty much the least egotistical people that you could imagine. Not Obama, because he's the most egotistical person I could imagine. Most egotistical president we've ever had. I've ever seen, at least. I assume anybody religious is too egotistical to be on the side of what I'm talking about. I see stopping atheism in this as the same goal as stopping immaturity. And you don't stop immaturity, you just manage it. But the thing that got me booted in the philosophy room is because I was talking about atheism and I was comparing it to liberalism and basically just denial of facts, as I do. But they didn't like talking, comparing it to liberalism. In my mind, yes, in the sense that they are both wasteful and they are both like into immaturity. Well, lack of self-control. And in relation to liberalism, in the way that it is antithetical to conservatism, and conservatism is self-control. So atheism and liberalism are equal under no self-control metric. I could see that. No self-restraint, at least. Foolishness. Fools rush in. But I would not necessarily say that rushing in always was a detriment to oneself. Hmm. I just want the truth. Whoever is on the list is what I want. I don't want anybody that is not on the. Actually, I don't have any want on it, but for the truth. I assume. I mean, I accept those people are on it. I just want the truth, and I want it to be confirmed. I just want it out, and then we'll deal with it after that. In the same way, I don't want there to be no immaturity. I just want it to be out there and go, so we know who it was. I mean, at this point, you just putting the notion of sex parties on trial. I mean, really, what we're talking about is a political sex party. I mean, and orgies, I guess, would be the. But I mean, I guess when you go to kids, then we're also getting the consent, major consent, and all that. And it's just, if we assume non-consenting adults, then we're just talking about sex cult and secret societies at that point. And pretty much the lack of integrity inherent in lacking transparency. I mean, I definitely buy that. I always viewed him as a sort of an undercover cop, and I was never gonna give him they always try and, oh, he was doing the same thing we were. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna hold against the undercover cop who got his way into the mafia by roughing up a few shopkeepers who didn't pay their bill. He had to make his way to the top in order to report on the findings. So yeah, everything scales. So I mean, but that begs the question: how far does the sex party scale? And it seems like certain people should not be allowed to have sex parties, particularly those in power, even though that's what humans tend to do first with power they get. Well, I mean, I think that Diddy parties is a good specification of the distinction I'm making in consent. And yeah, everybody goes to, if she comes over and knows that there's drugs and shit going on, and she takes drugs and that inhibits her functions, is that not part of the experience? I would say everybody's a victim of feminism, but I would say that if Diddy is a victim of feminism, he did the very worst thing he could do to avoid justifying being victimized by feminism, which is beating on a female in a hotel lobby in front of the camera. So I guess really the problem really there would be doing it on camera as opposed to doing it at all. That might do. I imagine she did. Kind of like the old joke, what do you tell a woman with two black eyes? Nothing, you already told her twice. But then that just goes into the notion of people learning from painful experiences. If I am compensating for my trauma, how much am I compensating? Is that what you're asking? I would say my compensation is limited to my online expression as opposed to my real world expression. Like I'm not out knocking on doors and sharing my mind. I'm actually just out my monetary stuff. Social security and disability, that I pretty much got about $1,000 a month to live on. But it wasn't always there now. Um well, I would say nothing legally considering I never even got charged for shooting me. But I hear if they had been, and being that I was permanently injured due to their criminality, then I would be entitled to a third of their income for the rest of my life. Um, no, nowhere near around 1 million. I mean, if you're asking me how much I think a bull in the head is worth, I would say being on disability. I try to avoid like a one size fits all reaction as opposed, it's more like just my solutions are more in the realm of obstacles and seeing like, here's a challenge, here's a test. And I view pretty much life as its own test and pretty much, most that anybody else could do to help anybody succeed in that is to just help them find a constant. So, and I view the Social Security disability being as a constant. So I would put them on that list. How do we free Israel from what? From Islam? So basically, how do we stop Islam? In the same way we stop atheism. We don't. We just manage it because they're all the same thing. Liberalism and Islam are the same, no lesson. Then there's immaturity and lacking self-control, acting on emotions and not applying thought, except for justifying the emotions that you're acting on. Immaturity incarnate. So basically, just prove maturity is possible. The most you can do, lead by example, and also shame. People should are shame the Muslim. Yes, shame every Muslim. Every Muslim deserves shame. Anybody who heard what they were selling and said that's for me. Yes. All right. Well, here's an exception. Now we're going into the undercover cop role. We say if you're undercover there, you're just reporting on the facts, and that's why you're there, and you're not actually buying into the bullshit, then you're accepting to what I'm saying. But I'm not assuming that. I'm assuming not that. And I don't, because when I say every Muslim, I mean every actual Muslim, every real Muslim, every devoted Muslim, not the people who do that. And Sneeko, I'm unfamiliar with the history, but I assume that's the exception you're referring to. That's, oh, that's why I like Socrates. The only good is knowledge, the only evil is ignorance. And not life, a good life is to be chiefly valued. The only evil is ignorance, yes. And that's right on the other side of all data is good. So no data is evil. Or just deception. So basically, yeah, deception. You can't expect the truth for anybody lying to themselves. So I would say that evil starts in lying to oneself, and that lines with my view that original sin is self-pity or self-victimization. And then that goes into the idea that nobody was ever in the right to complain about consequences of behavior they refuse to change. So I figure it's on our part to do what we can to help, but pose all these immature ideas and asking, confronting, this is what I see, this is what you did, here's my response. Are you choosing to maintain course? And you're basically just disproving or you're distinguishing intentionality from accident. Are you wrong on purpose or wrong on accident? And what I mean, are they even able to admit that they're wrong is another question. And that's pretty much what I find people are not able to do. So I just log on to troll them for not being able to do that. But that only works people not able to do. But it really just everybody. Nobody's going to do it. I guess it takes a bullet in the head. Even though that's not true. But I can still joke about it. Are we on the right side of history? What do you mean by we? You assume you and I are on the same side. If you mean we conservatives, we American conservatives, then yes. I wouldn't label it to white, but I mean, that's just more American than anything else. And conservatism is the right side of history point of view. Anglo-Saxon Zionists, being that you just basically described conservatism in my mind, I would say yes. But also, I would also liken the conservatism to wisdom as much as I would liken immaturity and liberalism to foolishness. I like to think so. I am definitely the main character. Singular. Yep. they are NPCs in my story. And really, I figure it is my stance that their story doesn't even begin to matter until I've told my story so that others can hear how they respond to that. Even if only in their own story. Yes, everyone is a main character, even if only in their own story. And on the other side, it's like to the world you might be just one person, but to one person you might just be the world. Then we're going into determining reality and variables that I'm trying to step on concepts that I once played. That's controversial. That's a good question. I don't even know because they're all controversial, it turns out. The most important controversial take, I would say, would probably be something that I said in a chat to get booted from it earlier today, is that standing in your mother's shoes does not make you a woman. Yes, you say I support law and order, and I do not support the notion of tolerating criminality openly. How would I run the world? I would be a dictator for a day and then let her figure herself out. But I would just pretty much say, no lying to yourself, no cowardice, and here's why, here's what happens if you do it. Pretty much all cowards would be killed, so everybody would avoid it. And then it'd be a better place. I would expect something more on the lines of an informed society would govern itself. I wouldn't media train anyone so much as give complete access to CCTV to everybody. It's like everybody sees what you do, so there's no hiding any shame. It's like everybody is subject to collective judgment at all times, pretty much. And everybody is required to I would designate, in my day of dictatorship, I would designate the metrics for proving somebody innocent or guilty of lying to themselves. And there would also be like recourse for proving intentionality or accidental. So, because we all got to start somewhere. And it's really just more about getting back up instead rather than laying down, staying there. Negrophilia. Is that race mixing term? Not a fan of race mixing. Oh, yeah. Some of the most desperate people I could have ever imagined. I'm in the sense that the more you love your own ideas, the less you need others to. And I'm glad that's actually part of the main reason that I would never extinguish atheism altogether or immaturity because that's just part of growing up. But it's like the same thing for the freedom of speech. If you stop the freedom of speech, then you stop people from confessing their evil and therefore worthy of ostracization. You mean in myself or my opinion on humanity? There's nobody more humble than I am. I would say that. But I mean, it's also true that you're not going to find anybody more egotistical than I am. I'm way more humble than narcissistic, and I'm very what you would call narcissistic. But yeah, it's like exponentially more humble. No, I'm an embracing narcissist. Yeah, beat you with logic. Hold me to the truth. Hold me to my own words. If I was like a Dr. Manhattan, which I pretty much am in tech, still just got to hold me to my words. Got to get me to contradict myself, refute my own position. You have to beat me at the games I design. And the game I design is really the game that's already been going on. It's just debate. I'm doing it better. What I do is I bring proof to a claim fight. Now everybody else has to level up to bring proof to a proof fight or stay getting beaten by only bringing claims to a proof fight. And my baseline position is not even bringing the bullet in my head up until after I've proven ridiculing somebody and they still want to fight back and demonstrate, oh no, I ain't you didn't beat me. I was like, not only did I beat you, but my half brain just kind of like extra icing on the cake. That shut the fuck up method is really effective, I find. But it's also full disclosure and transparency to lead with that. So it's also my profile picture, my CT scan. Laptop, 10, I think. Well, I had another laptop with the same model, and I remember upgrading to 11, and I ended up regretting that, so I did not upgrade on this one. So I would say 10 beats 11 at least. But I would say that probably 10 in answer to that question now. Um, yeah, I did get used to 7. I like 7 a lot, but I still think, yeah, I'm probably still more used to 7 than I am 10 even. Yeah, I would say 7 actually.